Please comment where you are watching in the world. You can tell when a date is going to be bad. There's this flicker, this primal little twinge in your gut, right before it all goes sideways. Most people ignore it. I did, but nothing could have prepared me for this. I'd been talking to Mark for 3 weeks. We had a few real conversations. He was funny, self-deprecating, always asking me questions. Pictures of him with his Cocker Spaniel puppy, random Snapchats of burnt pancakes, voice notes that made me laugh. It felt safe, familiar. That night, I was actually nervous walking into Lenny's cafe. I'd even put on lipstick, which, if you know me, means I thought this guy might actually be worth it. He'd picked the place. Some old diner off the highway, vinyl booths, sticky floors, that faint smell of bacon and bleach in the air. Not romantic, but he'd said it was low pressure and quiet enough to hear each other. When I got there, I was 5 minutes early. I texted him, "Here. Booth by the window. Can't wait to meet you," finally, smiley face. No response. Fine. People are late. I ordered a coffee and waited. 5 minutes. 10. 15. I kept glancing toward the door, expecting Mark. You know the type. Scruffy beard, kind eyes, baseball cap, just like his pictures. Every time the door creaked open, my heart jumped. But it was always someone else. Until it wasn't. A woman walked in, mid-50s, maybe older. Faded jeans, sweater that hung loose like it had been washed too many times. She carried a huge, beaten leather tote. There was nothing remarkable about her, except the way she looked around, scanning the room. And then she locked eyes with me. She smiled. A weak, apologetic thing. And then, God help me, she walked right over. "Emma?" she asked. My stomach dropped. "Yes." She swallowed hard, her eyes glassy. I'm Mark." I laughed. Because what the hell else was I supposed to do? "Sorry, what?" She sat down across from me, setting the tote on the seat. "I know how this looks. Please, just let me explain." I stared at her, waiting for the camera crew, waiting for someone to jump out yelling gotcha. But no one came. "I don't understand," I said finally. "Where's Mark?" She took a shaky breath. "Mark's dead." The words hit like a slap. "What?" "He's dead," she repeated, her voice breaking. 2 years now. I'm his mother. Silence. Just the clink of someone's spoon against a ceramic mug somewhere behind me. What the hell are you talking about?" She reached into her bag, pulled out a worn photograph, Mark. Smiling, arms wrapped around a golden retriever, just like the picture from his profile. "That's him," she whispered. "My boy." My hands trembled. Why were you talking to me? Why make a profile?" She wiped her nose. "I didn't know how else to. I wanted to know what kind of girl he might have brought home. The kind of life he could have had." I sat frozen. Every instinct told me to get up, grab my bag, and run. But I couldn't move. I just kept staring at that picture. Because it was him. Same face, same crooked grin. "How did he?" "Car accident," she whispered. 26. Hit by a drunk driver. Killed instantly. After the funeral, I couldn't sleep. I kept wondering about the things he'd never do. The people he'd never meet. "And this was your solution?" I choked out. "Catfishing strangers on Hinge?" She flinched. "I didn't mean for it to go so far. At first, I just wanted to see the kind of girls out there. The kind of person who'd fall for him. And you," her voice cracked. "You were so sweet. Funny. You talked to him. Like he was real. Because I thought he was." I snapped. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I know. I'm sorry. But you, Emma, you made him feel alive again. Just for a little while." The coffee tasted bitter in my mouth. "You're insane." "Maybe," she whispered. "But I couldn't stop. Every night, I'd read your messages, and for a second, it was like he was still here." I rubbed my temples. "You don't just do that. Do you have any idea what you've done? How fucked up this is?" "I know," she whispered. "That's why I needed to meet you. To explain. To end it." I stared at her, heart hammering. "Why here? Why now?" She smiled weakly. "Today's his birthday. Jesus Christ." I don't know what you want from me," I said. "Forgiveness? Closure? I just wanted to meet you. To see the kind of girl my son would have loved." I shook my head. "You don't know that. You have no idea." She gave a small nod, almost to herself. "No, but I like to think, maybe." For a long minute, we sat in silence. Then she pulled something else from her bag, a small, folded piece of paper. "What's that?" I asked warily. I printed out the messages. Yours and his. I wanted you to have them. If you want. I stared at the paper like it might bite me. Why the hell would I want that? I don't know, she admitted. Maybe to remember that you made someone, me, feel something again. I didn't touch the paper. I couldn't. Finally, she stood. I'm sorry, Emma. Truly. I won't bother you again. I sat there, staring at the booth across from me long after she left. The coffee went cold. My heart felt like it was splintering apart, and I couldn't even explain why. There was no Mark. There never was. And yet, it still felt like I'd lost him. I never opened that envelope. I moved apartments 2 months later. Deleted Hinge. Threw away the sweater I wore that night because it smelled like stale coffee and grief. Sometimes, though, late at night, I think about him. Or at least, the idea of him. The Mark I talked to. The version of him that might have existed in some other world. The man who sent me voice notes and called me trouble. I wonder if, wherever he is, he knows. If he saw us sitting there. If he heard his mother whisper happy birthday when she thought I wasn't listening. And I wonder if, just for a moment, he smiled. You can tell a lot about a guy by the first date he plans. Dinner? Safe. Drinks? Classic. Coffee? Respectable. But when a guy says, I've got a surprise, trust me, you'll love it. That's the moment you should run. I didn't. I met Ethan on Bumble. Tall, clean-cut, finance bro, but not in a sweaty banker way. More like a tech startup guy who drinks oat milk and listens to podcasts about stoicism. His profile was packed with buzzwords. Entrepreneur, investor, decentralized future believer. Whatever. I'd just been ghosted by someone who called himself a wandering soul. So a guy with a 5-year plan sounded refreshing. After 3 days of flirty back and forth, Ethan hits me with, let's do something fun. Not just dinner. I've got this thing, it's unique. You're gonna love it. Against every survival instinct, I say yes. Saturday, 6 p.m. He picks me up in a Tesla, which feels promising. He's cute in that bland, safe way. Navy blue button-down, white teeth, watch that probably costs more than my rent. You ready? He grins. For what? I ask. You trust me? I fake a laugh. No. He laughs like that's charming and drives us downtown. Pulls up in front of a blank brick building with a giant black sign that reads, The Decentralized Experience. My stomach twists. Is this a club? Better, he winks. It's my project. Oh God. He's a crypto bro, and he has a project. Inside, it looks like a knockoff escape room. Bare walls, dim lights, the faint smell of cheap weed and desperation. A kid in his 20s hands us waivers. You built this? I ask. Yep. Concept, design, all of it. He grins. It's called Escape the Fiat Trap. You solve puzzles, learn crypto, escape the system. I stare at him. You're kidding. It's gonna be huge. People love it. I want to leave. But the kid hands me a clipboard and Ethan's beaming, proud as hell. So I sign. Because I'm an idiot. We're locked in a room designed like a traditional bank. Ugly carpet, fake money everywhere, posters that say, debt is slavery. A robotic voice booms. Welcome, citizens. Your task, escape the fiat prison. Claim your financial freedom. Time starts now. Ethan is so into it. Sprinting to clues, rambling about the gold standard, inflation, fiat decay. First puzzle? A debt wall covered in credit card bills. We have to calculate compound interest to open a safe. I don't know math, I mutter. It's cool, Ethan grins. I built a calculator app for this. Of course he did. Second puzzle. A stock market crash scenario. We have to short the market to survive. The entire thing is dense with crypto lingo. Deploy your stablecoins. Exit liquidity. Stake your soul. Is this what investing is like for you? I ask. It's war, he says, dead serious. The third room? A giant screen showing a fake news broadcast. Breaking. The dollar has collapsed. Only blockchain remains. He fist pumps. Yes. This is my favorite part. I stare. Ethan. What is this? He looks at me, eyes shining. It's the future. This is bigger than a date. This is a movement. 45 minutes in, I realize there's no winning. The final puzzle is a smart contract simulation. The door only unlocks when you stake $500 into a real crypto wallet he created. You can't be serious, I say. It's just a test, he laughs. Shows commitment. You get it back, if you escape. My mouth goes dry. If. It's in the terms, he shrugs. Did you read the waiver? My blood runs cold. You actually want me to send you money? He grins. It's how I fund the project. Crowdsourced innovation. My hands are shaking. I'm not doing that. It's non-refundable if you quit now, he says, suddenly cold. That's also in the waiver. I stare at the camera in the corner. You're recording this? He grins. Content, babe. People love this shit on TikTok. I lose it. Open the fucking door. No can do. Not until you stake. Or call it quits and forfeit the date. I grab my phone. No signal. Of course. He leans back, grinning. You're not the first girl to freak out, you know. Some of them come back. I'd rather burn this place down. His grin widens. That'd make you part of the system, though. Rage against the machine, babe. I did the only thing I could. I pulled the fire alarm. Turns out, the whole place isn't up to code. Alarms scream. Sprinklers go off. Ethan yells about water damage to the server rigs. I run. Soaked, furious, humiliated, but free. I blocked him that night. Changed my Bumble bio to no crypto bros ever. 2 weeks later, my friend sent me a TikTok. Viral. 2.7 million views. Ethan explaining his escape the fiat trap concept, laughing about girls who can't handle financial literacy. My face, blurred but recognizable, walking out through the sprinklers. The caption? Some people just don't want to be free. They don't tell you what it feels like the first time you get that notification. An unknown AirTag has been detected near you. The location of this AirTag can be seen by the owner. Your stomach drops. You freeze. You look around like there's a sniper trained on you. I didn't even know what an AirTag was until that night. Now, I'll never forget. I met Alex on Hinge. He had this quiet, golden retriever energy, brown hair, messy in a way that felt intentional, soft eyes, that kind of half-smile that made it seem like he was actually listening. His profile said, looking for something real. No games. Just chemistry. Stupid. I fell for it. Our conversations were easy. No dry small talk, he actually asked things. What music I liked, what scared me if I believed in past lives. The night he sent me a playlist for driving at night, I swear my chest got tight. After a week of late-night talks and growing butterflies, we made plans. Drinks at this low-lit place downtown. The date was fine. Not fireworks, but fine. He was a little different in person, quieter, eyes darting around like he was watching the exits. But that's normal, right? First date jitters. We had 2 drinks. He laughed at my jokes. Listened. Touched my hand once. At the end, he asked if I wanted to go back to his place. I said no. Not because I felt unsafe, just not yet. His face fell for a second, then he smiled. Of course. Another time. He walked me to my car, waited until I pulled out. Polite. Respectful. The kind of thing that makes you think, maybe. The first notification came the next morning. I was driving to work when my phone buzzed. Unknown AirTag detected moving with you. This AirTag was first seen near you at 7:43 p.m. I frowned, confused. I was barely awake. I clicked on it. A little map popped up. It traced my route from the bar to my apartment. My chest tightened. I Googled it, figured maybe it was a glitch, someone in the complex losing their keys or something. I forgot about it. That night, the notification popped up again. Same AirTag. Same owner. Only this time, the map showed it had followed me to my office. I felt sick. I called my best friend, Nicole. She was quiet for a beat and then said, "You don't think it's him, do you?" "Alex." "No," I scoffed. "He was nice." "Yeah, so was Ted Bundy." I laughed. But it felt hollow. The next morning, I tore my car apart. Pulled everything out, under seats, in the trunk, glove box. And there it was, taped to the underside of my rear bumper. A little white disc, no bigger than a coin. My hands shook as I pried it off. I drove straight to the police station. The cop barely looked up when I shoved the AirTag across the desk. "This guy, Alex, I think he put this on my car." "You got proof?" I faltered. "No, but I went on one date with him. The night this started." He shrugged. "Could have been anyone. You can't check the registration or whatever?" He shook his head. "AirTags are anonymous. That's the whole point. Unless he admits it, there's nothing we can do." I stared at him. "So what? He just gets away with it." The cop's mouth twitched like he wanted to care but didn't. "File a report. Change your routines. Watch your back." I texted Alex that night. "Me, did you leave something in my car?" "Alex, what?" "No." "Why?" "Me weird. Found something. Probably nothing." "Alex, LOL, hope it wasn't a body winking face with tongue. I stared at the screen. My skin crawled. Blocked his number. Deleted Hinge. 2 days passed. No notifications. No sightings. I started to breathe again. Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe I'd overreacted. Then I got home from work and found a single white rose on my doorstep. No note. Just sitting there. My breath caught. My building doesn't have open access. No one can just walk up. My phone buzzed. No caller ID. I let it ring. A voicemail popped up. Hey Emma. It's me. Just thinking about you. I get it, you're scared. But I'm not a bad guy. You'll see. We're connected. I felt it. Anyway, see you soon. I didn't sleep that night. Next morning, I called Nicole. You have to stay with me, she said immediately. Pack a bag. Now. So I did. I left my apartment. Drove to her place. Halfway there, the notification popped up again. Unknown AirTag detected near you. I screamed. Pulled over. Tore through the car. Under the seat, in the cup holder, nothing. Then I checked my purse. It was in the lining. Slipped between the fabric. I almost threw up. Nicole called the cops. Again, nothing. No proof. Could be anyone. Technology's tricky. I smashed the AirTag with a hammer. Burned the pieces. Changed my number. I've never seen Alex again. But sometimes, I still get those notifications. Late at night. Random places. Unknown AirTag detected near you. Maybe it's him. Maybe it's no one. But now, every time I leave the house, I wonder, am I being followed? Or am I just losing my mind? If a guy tells you he's single on a dating app, you believe him. You don't want to play detective. You don't want to scan every photo for a wedding ring or zoom in on the corner of a mirror for a stray high heel. You want to believe that when he says, it's just me, it's true. Well, that of course was my first mistake. I met Daniel on Hinge. Early 40s. Handsome in a clean-cut, salt and pepper way. His profile screamed stable, mature, knows where the clitoris is. He wrote things like, looking for a partner in crime. Bonus if you love red wine and dark chocolate. I mean cliché, but better than here for a good time, not a long time. We matched, we chatted, and within 2 days he asked me out to dinner. No dragging it out, no endless texting. Confident. Direct. Let me take you to this Italian place I love, he said. It's quiet. Perfect for first dates. The place was beautiful, warm lighting, white tablecloths, actual candles. He greeted me with a kiss on the cheek and a real smile. Not the nervous, half-assed kind, but the I've done this before and I'm good at it kind. Emma, he said, you're even prettier in person. Smooth. Maybe too smooth. But I was tired of awkward 20-something tech guys who only knew how to talk about crypto or their emotional availability. Daniel felt adult. We ordered wine. He asked good questions, eye contact, interested funny. No mention of an ex, no red flags. For the first hour, it was perfect. I started imagining a second date. Hell, maybe even a third. Then dessert came. Tiramisu. And he ruined everything. You know, Daniel said, I should probably mention something. My fork froze. What's that? I'm married. It took me a second. I blinked, waiting for the punchline. What? He smiled. It's not what you think. My wife knows I'm here. She's totally fine with it. I stared at him. You're married. He nodded, like he was confirming the weather. 12 years. I sat back. You're kidding. Nope. We're open. He said it so casually, like he was announcing a new diet. We've actually been looking for someone. You're exactly her type. Her type. Excuse me? I choked out. She's at home, but I've shown her your photos. She's excited. Thought I'd meet you first, feel it out. I just stared. He kept going. Honestly, you're even better than your profile. I knew she'd like you. You've got that warmth. That's when it hit me, the practiced charm, the effortless conversation. This wasn't just a date. This was recruitment. I'm not into that, I stammered. That's okay, he said quickly. No pressure. I just think you should meet her. He pulled out his phone. Here, let me FaceTime her. She'll be thrilled. I almost fell out of my chair. Absolutely not. He laughed. Come on, Emma. You're curious. Just say hi. You're already here. I grabbed my purse. I'm leaving. Daniel's face darkened, just for a second. You could have said so earlier, saved us both some time. Maybe lead with I'm married next time, I snapped. He shrugged. That scares people off. Better once there's chemistry. I stood. You're disgusting. But he just smiled, that same confident smirk. If you change your mind, the offer's still open. She's gorgeous. You'd like her. I left. Paid for my own half out of spite. Sat in my car shaking, staring at his message already lighting up my phone. No hard feelings. Just think about it. You don't know what you're missing. Blocked. Deleted. I went home and drank half a bottle of wine, wondering how many other women he'd done this to. And the worst part, a tiny, traitorous part of me still wonders what she looked like. Some people say the universe sends you signs. I swear it screamed at me that night. I just didn't listen. I matched with Liam on Hinge. Cute, scruffy beard, messy hair, that boyish, I know where the good coffee is kind of vibe. His messages weren't cringe. He was funny. Smart. The kind of guy who uses correct punctuation and knows the difference between your and your. We clicked hard. Stayed up late talking about music, favorite horror movies, worst dates. He told me his family was complicated, but aren't they all? After a week, he asked me out. A cozy bar downtown. String lights. Good whiskey. The kind of place you imagine meeting someone worth it. He was waiting when I got there. Looked exactly like his photos, which was already a win. Emma, he smiled. Hey, wow. I laughed. You too. Drinks turned into dinner. Dinner turned into that easy, arms brushing kind of vibe. The chemistry was instant. I caught myself wondering if I could fall for someone this fast. And then halfway through dessert, I noticed it. The way he looked at me. Familiar. Too familiar. So, where'd you grow up? I asked, sipping my wine. Little place outside the city. You probably haven't heard of it. I laughed. Try me. He smiled. Ever heard of Weston? My blood turned cold. Yeah. Actually, my ex was from there. His eyes flashed, just for a second. Small world. What was his name? I asked, half joking. Liam shrugged. Wouldn't matter. Haven't been back in years. I forced a smile, but the hair on my neck stood up. After dinner, we walked outside. The air was crisp. He offered to walk me to my car. You're easy to talk to, he said, hands in his pockets. Feels like I've known you forever. Yeah, I laughed nervously. Weird, right? We stopped by my car. I turned to him. Hey, what's your last name? Why? He asked, grinning. Gonna Google me? Maybe. I smiled. Humor me. Carter. I froze. That name hit me like a brick to the chest. My ex, his last name was Carter, I whispered. Jake Carter. His smile widened. Yeah, Jake's my brother. For a full 10 seconds, I just stared at him. What? I breathed. Half-brother, technically, he said, like that somehow made it less insane. Different moms. My throat went dry. You knew. Of course I knew, he said. I recognized you the second I saw your profile. I stumbled back. Why the hell would you swipe right? He shrugged. Curiosity, I guess. I mean, he really fucked you up, huh? My head spun. What the hell is this? He took a step closer. Jake used to talk about you. Said you were the one that got away. He was obsessed for months after you broke up. I just wanted to see what was so special. I shook my head. This is sick. Is it? He smiled. Or is it closure? I should have walked away. Should have screamed. But I just stood there, heart hammering in my chest. Did Jake put you up to this? I whispered. No, he said, almost laughing. He doesn't even know. Last I heard, he's engaged. To some basic girl he knocked up. I swallowed bile. And you just what? Matched with me for fun. He leaned in, voice low. Maybe I wanted to see if you were as unforgettable as he said. I slapped him. Hard. His head snapped to the side, but he laughed. There she is. The girl he couldn't stop talking about. I backed away. Stay the fuck away from me. He smirked. Don't worry. I got what I came for. Which was what? I hissed. His eyes glittered. Proof. Of what? That you're still not over him, either. I don't remember driving home. My hands shook the whole time. Blocked. Deleted. Erased. But the damage was done. 3 months later, I saw Jake. Random grocery store run. He was with his fiancée, looking happy. Normal. Our eyes met. For a second, I swore he knew. And I realized, maybe that was the game all along. Maybe Liam was never there for closure. Maybe he was sent. And worst of all, maybe part of me liked the attention. They say you should never go back to a stranger's apartment on the first date. They're right. I met Nathan on Hinge. Tall, dark, muscular, curly hair. A crooked grin that made me feel something reckless. profile was standard, I must admit. It was the ruin my life line that should have tipped me off. But my self-destructive streak was flaring. I swiped right. We met for drinks at the Way Station in Brooklyn. One of those steampunk bars in Prospect Heights. Dim lighting, exposed brick, the kind of place where everyone looks like they're in a band. He ordered a mezcal old-fashioned, didn't flinch at the $17 price tag. I know this great spot after, he said. We could go to mine. I'll cook. Actual chef, remember? Normally, that'd be a hard no. But there was something about him, reckless, magnetic, a little too confident. I said yes. His apartment was a fifth-floor walk-up off DeKalb Avenue, Bushwick, of course. That special brand of East Coast decay, yellowed walls, exposed pipes, the smell of weed hanging thick in the stairwell. Inside, it was cleaner than I expected. Mismatched furniture, plants dying in the corners. A half-finished painting of a woman with no face leaned against the wall. I paint too, he grinned, seeing me look. When I'm not poisoning people with my cooking. I laughed. Should have run. He poured me a glass of wine. Malbec. Mendoza. I remember because it was good. Too good for a guy like him. Brownies, he asked. Family recipe. I hesitated. What's in them? Chocolate, he smirked. Butter. Regret. I laughed again. God, I was stupid. We ate. The brownies were dense, perfect. The wine was heavy. We sank into his thrift store couch, Netflix humming low in the background. 20 minutes later, my skin felt wrong. Tingling. Like my whole body was wrapped in static. I blinked. The room pulsed just once. Nathan, I whispered. What the fuck was in those? He smiled slow. Oh, yeah. They were edibles. Should have said. My throat closed. How much? He shrugged. I dunno. Half a stick of butter's worth? I don't really measure. My heart exploded in my chest. I didn't, what the fuck? You're fine, he said lazily. Ride it out. I stood. Or tried to. The floor melted. My legs didn't work. The walls stretched, breathing in and out like a lung. I have to go, I gasped. He grabbed my wrist, gently but firm. You're not driving, babe. Sit down. Babe. Something shifted then. The room hit me. I wasn't on a date anymore. I was trapped. I don't remember how long I sat there. Time stopped making sense. At some point, I crawled to the bathroom. My reflection in the cracked mirror smiled before I did. Nathan? I croaked. Nothing. When I came out, he was lying on the couch, eyes half closed, watching me like I was a wildlife documentary. You're spinning, he murmured. No shit. He grinned. You're cute like this. All helpless. My stomach turned. What did you put in those, Nathan? He shrugged. Just weed. Probably. I dry heaved. Curled into myself on the floor. Everything was too loud. The sound of the fridge humming. The rain outside. My own breathing. I'm calling an Uber, I mumbled. No signal, he yawned. Wi-Fi's down. I checked. My phone was a dead thing in my hand, flickering, glitching. Battery 1%. You did this on purpose, I said. Voice barely a whisper. He smiled. Did I? At some point, I blacked out. When I woke up, I was on his couch. Blanket over me. My coat was gone. My bag missing. Nathan? I called, voice hoarse. He appeared from the kitchen, holding a cup of tea. You're okay. Had a rough trip, huh? Where's my phone? He nodded at the table. Charged it. See? I'm not a monster. I grabbed it. 40 missed calls from Nicole, my best friend. Texts like, where are you? And I'm calling the cops. What time is it? I whispered. Almost noon. Noon. I'd been there all night. I ran. Didn't even put my shoes on. Down the 5 flights, lungs burning. Outside, DeKalb Avenue looked normal. Cabs. Kids. People living their lives. I threw up in the gutter. I never called the cops. What was I supposed to say? Hi, I did drugs at some guy's apartment, and now I feel gross. Nicole screamed at me for an hour. He could have fucking killed you, Emma. I know. Weeks later, I saw him on Hinge again. New pictures. New bio. Chef. Artist. Thrill seeker. Let me feed you. I reported him. Hinge did nothing. Of course. You know those TikToks where girls joke about leaving a date early because a guy did something weird, like order milk or call his mom mid-meal? I used to laugh at those a lot, but now. Until I went on a date that ended with his tooth in my wine glass. It started normal. Hinge match, funny banter, some overuse of LOL. but nothing disqualifying. His name was Greg. His profile? Solid. Tall, 6 feet 3 inches, because of course he listed that. A labradoodle in one photo, a suit in another. Said he worked in finance. Lived in Tribeca. I'm just here to meet someone who doesn't think talking about 401ks is boring. Honestly, it was boring. But he was hot, and I was tired of the app grind. He picked the place, La Compagnie de Vins Surnaturels, a wine bar in Soho, dim lights, real candles, menus printed on thick cardstock that practically screamed, "We're charging you $20 a glass, but it's classy, so it's fine." Greg was already there when I arrived, waving me over like he'd been waiting all night. He looked exactly like his pictures, which was becoming increasingly rare in my dating history. "Emma," he smiled, "you're even prettier than your profile." I laughed. "And you actually showed up. That's refreshing." We ordered wine. He chose a 2017 Burgundy with the confidence of a man who knew exactly what he was doing. "You'll love this," he said. "Pairs great with the truffle fries." I melted a little. A man with taste. For the first 30 minutes, it was good. He talked about markets, his dog named Cooper, how his parents still believed in marriage, which somehow felt comforting. We laughed. He leaned forward when I spoke. His knee bumped mine, and for once it wasn't accidental. I was starting to relax. Maybe, finally, a normal one. Then it happened. Mid-sip of his wine, Greg sneezed. Not a dainty sneeze. A full-body, head-jerking, glass-rattling explosion. I flinched. "Bless you." Then I heard it. A clink. I looked down. Something white floated in my wine glass. My brain short-circuited. "What the fuck is that?" Greg's eyes widened. His tongue darted out. His face went pale. "Oh shit," he muttered. He reached into my glass, 2 fingers, no hesitation, and plucked out a tooth. Not a cap. Not a veneer. A whole front tooth. He held it, dripping wine, staring at it like it betrayed him. I meant to tell you," he mumbled. "I've got a temporary." "You sneezed your tooth into my wine," I whispered, frozen. "It happens," he shrugged. "Weak adhesive." I stared at him. "It happens." "Yeah," he said. "Dentist says my real one's almost ready." He smiled, gapped, and I gagged. There it was. A pink, fleshy gap. A fucking void where his tooth used to be. For a moment, I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. I chose neither. I just sat there. "Honestly, you're taking this well," Greg grinned, still holding the tooth. "Most girls freak out." I blinked. "Most?" "Yeah, you know. It's not the first time." He shrugged. "Had a Hinge date once. Tooth popped out during sushi. She never called back." "No shit." I stared at the tooth. At the gap. At the tiny line of blood at his gum. I have to go," I managed. "Excite. Look, don't be weird. It's just a tooth. Everyone's got flaws, right? Not projectile dental flaws." "Come on, Emma." He grinned, gap wide, horrifying. "Don't ghost me over this." I threw down a $20 and left. Outside, Soho buzzed with life. Models, finance bros, tourists. No one had any idea a man's molar was floating in my wine less than 5 minutes ago. I sat on the curb and texted my best friend. He sneezed his tooth into my Pinot. She responded, "WTF, call me." Do not marry him. Greg texted later that night. Had a great time. Next time, I promise I'll keep my teeth in. LOL. Blocked. Deleted. Now, I flinch every time someone sneezes on a date. Because no one warns you about this shit. No TikTok tells you what to do when a man's incisor ends up swirling in your Cabernet. You just live with it, and you never, ever order red wine on a first date again. The red flags weren't waving. They were practically smacking me in the face. But when you've been single long enough in New York, you start ignoring the sirens in your head. You tell yourself it's fine, that you're being dramatic. That is where I went wrong. Again, I met Ryan on Bumble, you know the one, right? Generic hot, light brown hair, perfect smile, Columbia grad. Profile screamed privileged but harmless. No fish pics. No, here for a good time, not a long time. Just normal stuff, coffee, hiking, travel. He messaged first. I bet I can out-caffeine you. Coffee at Cafe Grumpy? It was almost too wholesome. Cafe Grumpy's the safe choice. Brooklyn hipster but not too hipster. A controlled, public place. I said yes. Ryan was already sitting outside when I got there, 2 Americanos waiting. Greenpoint glowed around us, brownstones, moms with strollers, that faint smell of sourdough and gentrification. Emma, right? He grinned, standing to hug me. You're even prettier than your pictures. It was standard, rehearsed, but charming enough. We talked for over an hour. Family, jobs, weird childhood stories. He worked in real estate development. Don't hate me, he joked, and honestly, he wasn't bad company. There were no politics rants, no weird sex jokes. He asked questions, listened, smiled. I felt myself relax. Halfway through the second coffee, he said, "You know, this might sound crazy, but I'm having a really good time." I smiled. Me too. So, do you want to take a walk? There's a spot nearby I think you'd love. I hesitated. This was where the stories start. But it was Greenpoint, full daylight. My gut stayed quiet. Sure, I said. We walked. He was funny, told me a story about his brother getting arrested at a Rangers game. The air was crisp. The city felt safe. After 10 minutes, he nodded toward a side street. Hey, my car's just up here. I need to grab something. You mind? I shrugged. Sure. We stopped in front of a black BMW, spotless. He hit unlock, opened the passenger door, leaned in. That's when I saw her. A woman, mid-50s, pale, sitting in the passenger seat. Perfectly still. Ryan smiled. Oh, hey, this is my mom. My brain short-circuited. What? His mom smiled, small, tight-lipped, like a hostage forced to play nice. She was just in the car? I managed. Yeah, he grinned. We were running errands before. I didn't want to cancel our date, so compromise, right? My mouth went dry. You brought your mother to our first date? She doesn't mind, he waved it off. Right, Mom? The woman, his mother, nodded once. Didn't speak. Just stared. I took a step back. Ryan, what the fuck? He laughed, like I was being dramatic. It's not a big deal. She just likes meeting the girls I date. She's cool. Totally cool. I'm gonna go. He moved fast, stepped between me and the sidewalk. Come on, Emma. Don't be like that. You're already here. Just talk to her. 2 minutes. What's the worst that happens? Everything in my body screamed run. But he was big, blocking the way. His mom watched us. Silent. Smiling. I took a shaky breath. Why? Why what? He asked. Why is she here? He shrugged. It's just our thing. Helps weed out the wrong ones, you know. I felt like I was underwater. Weed out? His eyes darkened. Yeah. Mom says she can tell right away if a girl's good for me. Jesus Christ. She was right about my ex, he added, grinning. Told me she'd leave. And she did. 6 months later. I edged around him. I'm not doing this. Emma, he called after me. You're making a mistake. His mother laughed then, a sharp, brittle sound. Like glass breaking. I ran. I didn't stop until I was back on Manhattan Avenue, shaking so hard I could barely text. Nicole answered on the first ring. Are you fucking kidding me? She gasped. Was she in the car the whole time? I guess so, I choked. Just sitting there. Watching. Block him. Done. Emma, she whispered. That's not normal. That's like Norman Bates level weird. It should have ended there. But it didn't. The next morning, I woke up to a message request on Facebook. From Cynthia M. Hi Emma. I'm Ryan's mom. I just wanted to say it was lovely to meet you. I think you and my son would make a wonderful couple. Maybe we got off on the wrong foot. Let's meet for coffee, just us girls. I stared at it, skin crawling. No. I didn't respond. Blocked her. Deleted Bumble. But for days I couldn't shake it. The way she smiled. The way Ryan had said she helps weed out the wrong ones, like it was normal. The way she sat, silent, still, staring like she already knew how the night would end. I changed my route to work. Stopped going to Greenpoint altogether. 2 weeks later, Nicole sent me a screenshot from Hinge. Ryan's profile, new photos, new bio. Just a family guy looking for someone my mom will love. I wonder sometimes, how many girls made it to the car? How many girls sat, cornered, while Cynthia watched? How many didn't get away? And I wonder if he's still out there. If his mom is still waiting, smiling that dead little smile. They say dating's hard in New York. What they don't tell you is sometimes it's dangerous. It started like most of the horror dating stories do, a Hinge match that seemed normal, borderline boring, which honestly felt like a green flag these days. His name was Matt. Late 30s, lived in Hell's Kitchen, worked in tech sales. No kids, no drama, just here looking for someone normal, his profile had read. It was the someone normal that got me. God, I wanted normal. We met at Baca di Bacco on 9th Avenue. One of those generic midtown Italian places with $18 cocktails and exposed brick walls trying a little too hard to feel authentic. Matt was already there when I arrived. Tall, clean-shaven, fine. The kind of guy you forget the second you turn away, but feels safe in the moment. Emma, hey! He stood, gave me the handshake-hug hybrid that only men in sales master. You're even prettier than your pics. I smiled. You too. The night was fine. He was charming in that way people who work on commission often are. Asked about my job, laughed at my dumb stories. Barely touched his drink. The check came faster than expected. He snatched it before I could reach for my purse. Don't even think about it, he grinned. I got this. Old school. I blinked. Are you sure? Absolutely. I smiled. Well, thanks. We walked a block to Hudson Yards, where he kissed me on the cheek, lingering just a second too long. Had fun, he said. Let's do it again. Yeah, I replied, meaning it. Text me. He did. The next morning. Had a great time last night. Would love to see you again. Me too, smiley face. Normal. Sweet. Predictable. I figured I'd actually lucked out. Until 11 a.m. My phone buzzed. Venmo notification. Payment request from Matt. $137. The note. Your half, LOL. For a full minute, I just stared at it. $137. No joke. No explanation. Just a demand. I texted him. Oh, what is this? He replied instantly. Oh, haha, yeah. Just figured it's fair to split, you know? Equal rights and all. Hope that's cool. My hands shook. You said you had it. Yeah, but that was just me being polite. You're cool, so I knew you'd be fair about it. I reread it 4 times. You're cool, so I knew you'd be fair. Like it was my job to retroactively fund his nice guy routine. I called Nicole. What do I do? Like, do I pay it? Absolutely fucking not. He knows where I live, I whispered. I gave him my neighborhood. Emma. No. This is psychotic. I didn't pay it. I sat on it for hours, heart racing, half convinced he'd show up at my door. Then my phone buzzed again. Another text. Hey, just checking. Gonna cancel if you're not paying. No big deal. Just like common courtesy, you know. I blacked out with rage. I wrote, you're right. Courtesy is important. So is keeping your word. You said you had it. Next time, don't offer if you don't mean it. Blocked him. Deleted Hinge. That should have been the end. It wasn't. A week later, I got a DM on Instagram from some burner account with no profile pic. Hey, you cost me $137. You should make this right. Another DM. Not a good look to ghost after using someone for a free meal. I froze. The Venmo request. The random follow. It wasn't a coincidence. Nicole called the second I told her. Emma, he's unhinged. Screenshot everything. I made my account private. Blocked him. Again. I changed my route to work. Stopped checking dating apps. But I couldn't shake the feeling. What if I had paid? Would he have gone away? Or would it have been worse? The scariest part? I knew this wasn't just me. I saw the TikToks, the Reddit threads. Men sending Venmo requests after first dates, demanding money, tracking girls down when they said no. That's the thing no one tells you about dating in New York. It's not the catfishes, the ghosting, the lies. You expect that. It's the quiet, transactional threats disguised as politeness. The men who smile and tell you, I've got this, then put a price tag on your time the next morning. I still check Venmo every few weeks, just to make sure he didn't try again. And I never, ever, let a man pay for the whole thing anymore. Not because I'm independent, because I'm terrified of the invoice. They say the best thing about dating apps is you can always leave. Block, unmatch, ghost, clean break, no mess. That's the lie we tell ourselves. Because sometimes, even when you plan your escape, they're already planning theirs. I met Eric on Hinge. Seemed normal enough. Creative director at a boutique ad agency, his profile read. Brooklyn guy, East Village energy. A little too many black and white photos, but he was attractive and could spell. Our messages were quick, witty. He knew how to flirt without being gross. By Wednesday, he asked me out. Drinks at the Folly, a nautical-themed bar in Soho. Cozy, quiet, great cocktails. You'll love it, he'd promised. I should have known better. Friday night, I showed up in my maybe this is worth it dress, already sweating under the city's early summer humidity. Eric was sitting at the bar, tall, dark, the kind of guy who looks better in motion than in photos. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of real excitement. Emma, he smiled, stood to kiss my cheek. You look wow. I laughed. You clean up okay too. We ordered drinks. He chose for us 2 gin and tonics with cucumber. It was charming. Sophisticated. For the first 10 minutes, I thought, finally. A normal one. Then came the shift. It wasn't dramatic. No screaming or weird political rants. Just a slow unraveling. Every time I spoke, his eyes drifted. Not in a bored way, but calculating. Like he was mentally checking boxes. I told him about my job. He nodded. About my family. Another nod. I cracked a joke. He smiled tight. The conversation felt like a job interview where I'd already bombed. 15 minutes in, he glanced at his phone. Screen lit up, something unreadable flashing. Sorry, he muttered, typing fast. Work. No problem. Except it was. The energy was off now, cold, distracted. I sipped my drink, forcing another story about my terrible roommate, but he wasn't listening. Then, clear as day, I heard him mutter, All right, do it. I blinked. Sorry, what? He looked up, startled. Huh, nothing. But my skin crawled. 2 minutes later, his phone rang. Loud. Aggressive. He jumped. Shit, sorry. I gotta take this. He turned, walking just out of earshot, but not too far. I could still hear enough. Wait, what? Are you serious? Right now, he said, loud enough for me to catch. No, yeah. I'll be there. Family first. His voice was shaky, too loud, like he was performing for an audience of one. I watched, stomach sinking. He came back, face pale, fake panic plastered on. I'm so sorry, Emma. My sister, there's been something. An emergency. I have to go. I blinked. What happened? He faltered, just for a second. Car accident. She's okay. I think. I have to go. I nodded, numb. Of course. Go. I'll text you, okay? He leaned in, touched my arm. I was having fun. Seriously. Then he was gone. I sat there, staring into my half-empty gin and tonic, pulse hammering. The bartender caught my eye. You all right? I forced a smile. Yeah. Just bad luck. He nodded, like he'd seen this exact scene play out 1,000 times. 10 minutes later, I paid my tab and left. Walked 2 blocks to Spring Street, called Nicole. She answered on the first ring. That bad? I told her everything. The phone call. The shaky voice. The family emergency. There was a pause. Emma, you know that's fake, right? I stopped. What? That was staged. I guarantee he texted a friend mid-date to call him. He bailed. No, I whispered. No way. Babe. It's classic. I've done it. Emergency escape plan. Hell, you had me on standby last month. I wanted to argue, but fuck. She was right. The weird energy shift. The mumbled all right, do it. It wasn't an accident. It was the exit plan. I got home and did what every broken, humiliated woman in her 30s does. I stalked. Instagram. Facebook. LinkedIn. His sister? Didn't exist. Every family photo? Just him. Solo. No sister. No car accident. No fucking emergency. The next day my Hinge glitched, showed me likes from people who'd unmatched me. And there was Eric, freshly active. Smiling. Swiping. I stared at his face, blood pounding. I never texted him. He never texted me. Of course not. The plan worked. I let him off the hook. Let him vanish into the app ether like every other coward. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder how many times he's done it. If there's a group chat where his friends are on call, ready to rescue him from women like me. Too loud. Too much. Not pretty enough to hold his attention. That's the thing about dating now. There's no honesty. No, hey, I'm not feeling this. Just staged emergencies. Escape hatches. Ghosts. And we pretend it's normal. The next weekend, Nicole texted me. Hey, going out with a Hinge guy tonight. If I text you 911, call me and say my dog died. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed, got it. Because that's dating now. We all have our exit plans.